Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Imperfectly Ambitious. In this episode, I'm having such a good conversation with Ryane, LeCesne. It's such a good conversation around the things that hold us back from moving forward towards what it is that we really want, moving towards those professional dreams that we have, right? Because we're stuck in the fear. And some of the most common things that show up, what that fear really is all about is that like perfectionism, this impostor syndrome. She adds a third one, which is distractionism. And I know at least out of these three, you're going to really identify strongly with one, maybe more. And so I'm curious to hear what hits home for you, but we really dive into this. Ryane is a master your mindset coach. So we're really talking about all the mindset pieces here that really hold us back. And she's coached nearly 1,000 high achieving women, really helping them advance their professional dreams by overcoming and healing from the self-limiting mindsets of imposter syndrome and perfectionism. So I know you're going to like this episode. I know you're going to relate to so much of it. So many good nuggets to take away. So tune in. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to Imperfectly Ambitious. This is your go-to podcast if you're an ambitious achiever, checking all of the boxes, but know that there's more for you, more impact you know you can make on your terms. Join us each week for inspiration, tools, and business mentorship to help you break through what's holding you back and take imperfect action one step at a time as you create more impact, putting your gifts to work, and doing more of what you love. I'm Amanda Edwards, and I'm so glad you're here. Ryane, welcome to the show. It's so fun to have you here, and I just can't wait to share you and all of the value that you have to offer with my audience. So thanks for being here.
Thanks, Amanda. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to your listening audience. I love your title, Imperfectly Ambitious. It's exactly when I emailed you today about like all the fine points, like, am I getting this right? I was like, this is, I rounded it with like your title. I was like, exactly. This is exactly who I am. So thank you.
I love it. Oh, yes. I'm so glad that we connected. And I think to your point about the title of the podcast, I think the episode today is going to certainly follow suit with that. And so I'm just so excited to have the conversation. Let's start with just telling everybody a little bit about who you are and really this very important work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. So I do think that it's important work, and I appreciate that positioning of important work. And it's not so much that I do important work. It is that I think the work is important. The work of supporting people step into their power, step into their potential, further step into the next best version of who they are, is like really what gets me very jazzed. And so, you know, who am I? What do I do? So I am a mindset and energy management coach. So the combination of the two means that I am a classically trained coach, a professional executive coach who holds the space for a person to be asked thought-provoking questions that really do bring out the best in someone. What do you notice about how you're showing up? What do you notice about your behavior? What are your goals? That clarification, strategies around how to close your confidence gap, ways to stand in a person's personal brand or build that personal brand. So classic coaching. And then that's also in my practice combined with energy management. And that's because we are energy. It's like, how to say this in any other way than we literally are energy. If you took a microscope and you lasered in on our skin, you would see the vibration of our skin moving. We literally are vibrational beings. And we have these things called emotions that are attached to our beliefs, and our emotions are energy in motion. They are what propel us forward or what hold us back. And so this energy management, this motion, emotion, energy piece is really, really important. So everything from meditation to breath work to Reiki to chakra clearing, I really support a person's energy body also move forward. So it's that both and piece. And I work with wonderful wonderfully high achieving women. And I specialize in high achieving Black women, women of color, because I am. And I also feel it's important. Why? The message is universal. It's not a color message or a gender message. But we do know, statistically speaking, that messages resonate with people and that representation matters. And so it matters that I'm in this space of healing in this way, looking the way that I do, so that I can speak to people who can hear the message in a way that maybe wouldn't resonate in a way if it came from it's a universal message again, but that idea. So that's what I do.
Totally.
That's the idea.
I totally get it, and I love it. And thank you for giving us that perspective. And there's so many things there that I just want to dive into further. And I know, you're talking to, women listening are wanting to do so many things. They're wanting to live this life where they feel fulfilled and they're making an impact, and they tend to be, high achieving, and they're high performers, and they're ambitious, and they have these big goals and these big dreams. And yet they find themselves it's one of those things I always like to talk about, how you could know exactly what you need to do. Somebody doesn't need to tell you exactly what you need to do. Somebody doesn't need to tell you, it deep down what you need to do, yet you're still not moving forward because and here's what I also want to, you're checking all the boxes, you're doing all the things, you're making you're checking things off the list, so to speak, but they're all the safe things that you feel comfortable doing because you can rock it. But yet this big thing you have on your heart, or this thing that that's pulling at you that you need to do, you're not, because, and this is what you talk a lot about, which I love, and I want to hear your perspective on it, that imposter syndrome or that perfectionism just is ultimately what's holding you back. And I think we might hear those terms and we get it, or we hear that, but what does that really mean to you? How does that show up? Maybe in your clients or in your own life, and what do you see as it relates to these, women who are doing really great things, but want more, yet these are the things that are holding them back.
Yeah, Amanda, so well said. And so well said, the dichotomy of the two, right? And as I was listening to you build the question, I could even hear in the rhythm of your voice, the way you would position the cadence was these high achieving women who can do all these things, and there's all this energy. And then there's this butt, man. Oh, this butt. And the butt is because, and then I could even hear you slowing down molasses, the imposter syndrome, the perfectionism, the distraction that takes our energy and sideswipes us and hijacks our dreams and leaves us feeling really stuck, right? I mean, even in the question, there was such energy behind that. Absolutely. I see it every day. I've seen it in my own journey. And a couple things around what are they? What are the distinctions of these mindsets? First of all, they're mindsets. They are ways of perceiving ourselves and perceiving the world. They are practiced behaviors, which means that they're habits. They're beliefs. The belief for each is similar and yet distinctly different. The belief at the very core of both, it is, I'm not enough. And yet, the nuances are slightly different. The subtleties are different. For a person who is trapped in the mindset of imposter syndrome, the inner dialogue or the sense might be something like, regardless of the title, experience, expertise, I have a overwhelming sense that I'm going to be caught, found out, exposed as not knowing, not being enough, and somehow having gotten here, but not really having the credentials or what it takes or the belief that I'll be able to figure it out if I fail, right? There's that sort of, I want to hide because I don't really belong and someone's going to know it and call me out for it. Perfectionism is slightly different in that the internal dialogue might be more focused on, I'm not ready enough, I'm not complete enough, right enough, correct enough, perfect enough, not smart enough, capable enough, but there's like I'm not ready. This project isn't ready. And then you can go through, but it's all these things. It's all these things that you've completed all. Yes, but it's, I'm not ready. It's not ready. It needs another getting ready to get ready, kind of like this holding on experience. Distractionism for me is this sense that I know, like you said, I know that I want this thing, but maybe I don't know how to get there, or maybe it's so scary, or maybe it's so big or so massive that what I wind up doing is I am in this relationship with it where it feels like I'm getting ready to get ready, but I'm distracted by it. It's a bit different. It's like a metaphor might be all the balloons are on the ceiling, the helium balloons, and I keep trying to collect them into a bouquet, and I get like 3 or 4, and then like 2 or 3 go. And then I get 2 or 3 more, and then like 1 goes. I can't seem to get my hands around the whole vision or the whole project. I just get distracted by all this small minutia stuff. Those 3 are a trifecta that I also find a person like this may have a sensitive nervous system. They might be a more sensitive person. They might also be juggling a lot of roles because they are ambitious. They are a woman. The 2 together, like equally that. So, this trifecta really is sticky. It's very sticky. It's very emotionally, there's 2 types of emotions. There's power emotions and force emotions. These are very force heavy, laden with anxiety, self-doubt, uncertainty, lack of clarity. It's like all of that, right? And yet there is this flip side, which makes it honestly so torturous for this type of person, because she is so daggone ambitious, and this is a spiritual, I do not shy away from the fact that this is a spiritual quest. This is a person who's on their own hero's journey. Mm-hmm. So she is like, here I am, standing sort of naked, vulnerably in life. And I've got things I want to accomplish. How do I do it? How do I hold the space for myself? And that's, that's can be really scary to know, that whatever it is, signing up for volunteering for your kids' class or starting a business or whatever that catches you when you hold back and the mind says some of the things that we just talked about, that's fear. That's false evidence appearing real. There's a real good chance you're hijacked by something that's truly not true about you or the situation, and leaning into another acronym, truth, your truth, the reality you truly have, that you do know, that you are ready, you are capable, not for 20 steps maybe, but you probably are, but for the next step, the one shift. And that's all that we have to do today. That's it. We don't have to do the 20 steps today. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that whole, one step at a time. What's the next step? And the next step will reveal itself. And I love those acronyms. Fear, you said it's false evidence appearing real.
That's right.
I love that. Think about that. And then truth was...
The reality it is the letter U, not Y. But the reality you truly have. It's the reality you truly have. It's, all the things that are true. It's what I call your brilliance.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love that. I have a question for you real quick for my own. I'm just curious. When you talked about that trifecta with imposter syndrome, perfectionism, and that distractionism.
Yeah.
What's at the root of distraction? Do they all have that same root about, not being enough, and just shows up in different ways? that distractionism, what's kind of at the root of that one?
Okay, so Amanda, may I tell you a really quick, this is like, I'm getting ultra current.
Yeah.
and a little bit not personal, like in a space where it feels ultra vulnerable, but I'm going to share some things that I'm not quite sure of. So let me just share this.
Yeah.
So both imposter syndrome and perfectionism, if you look in psychology today, psychology today, meaning any like the website, or any like psychology book, they have their own distinction. They are clinically defined, like in your psychology nomenclature. Distractionism is a term that I coined based on my own personal experience and based on what I have seen over and over and over again, particularly with women who have left corporate America and are now starting their own business. And here's the distinction why. When you work for someone else, regardless of how dysfunctional the organization or the whatever, you were hired to do something specific. Somebody told you, do A, B, and C, and your paycheck is coming. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to like run the business. You don't have to just do this one function and this is going to happen. When you move into entrepreneurship, first of all, to me, most people who move into entrepreneurship really aren't entrepreneurs. They're small business owners, which is totally different, right? Meaning they have a skill that they're now creating a business around, which is totally different. I did not know that. That's like 15 podcast episodes of like talking about this.
That's
like,
so good.
I had no idea,
so
right? So to wrap up this idea, it is that in entrepreneurship specifically, it is you, it's your vision, and it's you now learning skills that you've never, ever, 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 ever done before, wrought with like imposter syndrome, perfectionism, and this thing called distractionism. And I say that with entrepreneurs because all the systems are gone. You're now creating all your systems. And so what I noticed for me is I began, not just with my business, but things happened and they just happened again. And so I'm now noticing them from my expertise as a coach. I'm observing myself in real time as things are happening. We just moved as a family, again, third time in 5 years. We have a 4-year-old. So I started to notice distractionism on hyper focus and awareness. Things like, where are my shoes? Where are my keys? And I no longer had systems for these. My shoes could be anywhere in the house. The house is also bigger. So I'm now literally trying to get my daughter off the door for school and I'm running around. Where are my shoes? Where are my shoes? Where are my keys? And I'm starting to unravel. I can feel it now. I'm starting to feel like what's happening. And so I noticed this. And I noticed the patterning of this. And I noticed the distraction is overwhelming. My nervous system is overwhelmed. I get an email because I'm on a list of a coach who's, I don't even know who it is, but it's a sales email. And it says ADHD coach earns blah, blah, blah number. And it's a breadcrumb from the divine. And see, I know that I have a high potentiality of something like this being true for me because when I'm 43, which meant I was in the 80s as a kid, as a high achieving girl who, was smart. I also registered meaning like we had the testing done for short-term memory, which I registered for, like having short-term memory issues, definitely dyslexia, dysgraphia. So some what I now know as divergent mind tendencies or like indicators were there, but never testing for ADHD. So we're in September. This was the middle of August. This was just 30 days ago. I'm just like tapping into this. And so I do as we do. I went down a Google search and I found a book called Your Brain Is Not Broken. It was published in 2021. It's a new book by this woman named Teresa Reese, I think, Dr. Teresa Reese. Anyway, she gives this whole understanding of ADHD. And when I tell you I sobbed, I was affirmed. I looked in the mirror and thought, wow, this feels like this makes sense. And since then, I have found a therapist to move into really diagnosing if this is in fact what is occurring. I don't want to self-diagnose. I don't want to even, particularly publicly, like say that this is what I'm claiming, but I can say that I felt very thoroughly read in a very good way. Like I had come home and found an identity and a reason why things felt so difficult. And since then, so this is very new, as I shared, I haven't had a diagnosis yet. I'm still in the process of that. But what has shifted is things that used to be cute, kind of like, oh, isn't it cute to have a planner that you write things down in? Isn't that cute? Or wouldn't it be nice to really focus on being consistent with a morning practice, which I can be, but it feels, what I've learned is that's not cute. That's a have to. My brain does not have a butler who remembers where my shoes are. So I have to take a moment and slow down and put my shoes where they belong. I have to write them down. It's no longer like kind of cute or wouldn't that be, Restoration Hardware looking. No. It's like, fundamental.
Yes. Yes. Oh,
I share all that.
No, I love it.
That's the distractionism piece.
Real. Yes.
So we'll see, we'll see if distractionism shifts in my language to be more like I'm an ADHD coach, which I would then begin to, move in that direction.
I love it. And I asked about it because I think not only like I can recognize that like in having so many conversations with women, like that very concept like comes up or in different ways, right? Or is like alluded to in different ways, or like if it's even too, like if you, to your point about like in your work or in your business, like there's the perfectionism piece, but then the distractionism piece, like I will say sometimes will show up and I'll catch myself doing it. It's like I'm avoiding the very thing that actually has to be done, like when it comes to business, right? And you like let yourself get distracted with all these things that actually don't matter. I can recognize that when it happens and call myself out on it. Sometimes, like if people don't have quite yet that like experience with it or that level of like self-awareness, they don't realize that that's what's happening. Like you're not actually focusing on the things that matter, and you're convincing yourself that all these other things over here that are safer, like you're just going to work on these things instead. That's what was coming to mind when you were talking about that. And I asked because I very genuinely that resonated just in so many conversations that I have as something that really happens.
Absolutely. And then the question becomes, well, why, not why, but what is the impetus for avoidance? Okay. Is it fear? Like, I don't know how to do it. Is it, I actually don't have the skill to do it. So then it becomes, what is the fear piece there? What is the message that, that your mind is telling you? And that's really, really important to like the transformation, because all of those pieces, of but, right? Like meaning you again, going back to your beautiful question, you could hear the energy, all this high achieving, we've got all these dreams. But that pivot, everything that comes after the but is super relevant only in that those are the sweet nothings that my mind, and for you, your mind, Amanda, which are going to be different than mine, our sweet nothings are the things that will keep us stuck. And those are the things after the but. So like, you talked about having to do this thing and then you find yourself avoiding, like, and then it becomes distracting and you can hear yourself, well, and then you're in a tug of war, because I can hear you, like, you notice the noticing, right? Tug of war. I should be doing this, but I'm over here, but this matters, but this, this thing. And then you're like, but, and so this conversation, this makes a difference because this is where this is where the stickiness is, and we oftentimes like avoid the listening to the chatter because the chatter doesn't feel good. We even distract ourselves from the chatter, even though it's still going on. We might then move from whatever the task is of distraction to Instagram. And then the chatter is like sort of just now a little bit more muted, but kind of in the gut instead, you know? And so then we're on. Now it's a Ferris wheel that we're on, you know? Absolutely.
So true. I love what you just said there. And I want to be sure that everybody like grabs that piece, because that's an exercise that they can do right now is like, what comes after the but? Like, I know I really want to do this, or I know I need to do this, or wouldn't it be cool if this? Well, yeah, but whatever that thing is where you need to like focus on how can you start to move through that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Amanda, that's so true. And I'm so glad you paused there because like Imperfectly Ambitious Women, that literally is an exercise. Do that right now.
Yeah, right.
Pause and say, okay, I want this thing. That is literally an exercise I do in my webinar. That is one of the first myths I dispel is this idea that, you know, we have to like gloss over our fears. No. Like there's wisdom in there. We've got to clarify, sit with your fears. What's there? And no, it does not feel good, but that's really, there are people such as myself, coaches, counselors, therapists, who are trained in holding the space for you to safely sit with, yeah, I am afraid of that. And it doesn't feel good because the self-awareness is curative. When Amanda talked about, and I could see her like in front of her computer, you know, looking at this project that she has and then, you know, having to like get distracted. But then that toggle, she talked about the inner dialogue of like, wait, no, I know because I have experience and I've done this a number of times and I know myself and all the things. I can feel that I'm being distracted and I'm, you know, but now I'm toggling back in. That self-awareness, that's curative because prior to that, it was just happening. The distraction was just happening and there you were and behind your computer, there I was behind my computer, just hypnotized by the distraction. I don't even know the day has passed. The week is gone. I don't know where the time has gone. And I've just been working, but don't know what I've accomplished.
So true.
But that self-awareness, you're like, oh no, there it is. Come on, self, come on. You know? Absolutely.
Yes. So true. So that I love that exercise beyond the but. And then what are some other things, some strategies, or whether it's kind of higher level strategies or more micro level day-to-day strategies, like what could somebody start to do who is really just feeling bogged down by this stuff, by that perfectionism, imposter syndrome, distractionism? Yeah. Like what can somebody do?
Yeah. And I love that word bogged down. And so I'm going to start with, and I mean this wholeheartedly, and this is a public service announcement, not a sales call. It is, please do yourself a favor and invest in yourself. Build your Brilliance team. We are not meant to go through this world alone. We're simply not. So I advocate for every single person to have a therapist, to have a doctor, and a coach. All three.
Okay, I love how you call it a Brilliance team. That's so cool.
Oh, it's so important. It's so important. And on that Brilliance team, too, are things that also take things off your plate. You know, HelloFresh or Blue Apron or having your dry cleaning delivered. Like those things are part of Brilliance team, too. Like what helps you alleviate stress and to relax your nervous system? Because whether you do have a hyperactive nervous system or not, more likely than not, if you're listening to this podcast, you are a active person. Like you're moving a lot. And so for you to be able to unload some things, whether that's emotionally, cognitively, your thoughts, whether that is time, that's critical. So starting there from very macro, like building this Brilliance team, I think is really, really, really important. I have a coach. I have a therapist. So I advocate for things. I model these things. I think they're really important. And I speak about coaching and therapy specifically because it's very difficult to get out of our own way. And so having a professional who says, what's going on here? Or what did you notice? Or is also teaching the skills of how to notice ourselves in real time. It's really, really, really critical. And it's a very different experience than reading a blog or reading a book or something else, or trying to go at it alone. So that's one, is really investing in yourself with support, with a Brilliance team. Two, what you're going to wind up doing with this person is increasing your self-awareness. And so, practical ways to really increase self-awareness. There's two things I'm going to talk about because I think they're kind of quick little things that one can hear and then kind of get a concept of and then practice. One is this idea of observing yourself in real time. And the way to kind of get a sense of this, kind of practice sense into this, is to imagine yourself on the dance floor dancing. Okay, and kind of like see yourself, there you are on the dance floor, you are the dancer. And then also imagine that you are still the person dancing on the dance floor, but you are also having an outer body experience and you're teleporting yourself to the balcony. So you are also watching yourself dance. So you're observing yourself in a bit of a different way. So what this does is it helps us to, in real time, notice what we notice about ourselves. And this telescoping gives us just a little bit of objectivity, a little bit of distance to say things like, I notice that when I have to do a social media post, which makes me feel a little bit vulnerable, I get distracted. I didn't notice that before. I just wouldn't do it. But now I notice. And I'm noticing that because when I went to put my hands on the keyboard the other day, I took them off and I noticed that. I never noticed that before. That's critical because now that you notice, you're at choice. You can put your hands back on the keyboard if that feels right at that moment, right? Or get help, or, you're at a point of choice. Whereas before it went uncovered. So this idea of telescoping, this observing yourself in real time, is really powerful. Another one, and a way to enhance this, truly is a mindfulness practice or meditation. And I want to very quickly dispel a couple of things about meditation. One is that the objective is to have a clear mind. That is not the objective. The objective in meditation or in mindfulness is actually to totally get distracted, to catch yourself. Oh, rather than focusing on my breath, I am focusing on my shopping list. I'm thinking about that stupid thing I said. I'm feeling really angry about my partner. I'm remembering how I felt when I was 6. Whatever it is, I'm lost in it. I now recognize it, and I'm bringing myself back to center. That's the practice. Because just like in the other example, before, the person we were talking about, I want to do the social media post, but my hands are on the keyboard and now they're not. And I didn't notice it before. Meditation is literally the it's like being in the gym. It's the repetition. It's the treadmill work of like being hijacked. Your thoughts are being hijacked. Your emotions are hijacked. You catch yourself and you come back to center. That practice over and over again in real time is what's going to help you notice my keys are supposed to be on the keyboard and they're not. Like meditation is the direct link to that exercise.
So good. That's so good. I love this. I love that you're just giving, because they're concepts that we might talk about, but I love how you get us to a level of like what we can actually do, like practically do today that gets us out of just conceptual into like putting it into practice and just some good, fresh perspectives around it. I love it so much.
I'm glad. And to like noodle that just a tidbit more of how it could be practical, like at a stoplight, it is, we're thinking all day long, right? So you might be brushing your teeth at a stoplight and notice that you are gripped in stress, gripped in it. And here's where meditation makes a difference in real time. Come back, literally, I notice, oh my gosh, I am having like an outer body experience where I am totally not here. I'm all stressed out. I'm thinking about something that doesn't even exist right now. I can take a deep breath. I can let that out. and I can let that thought go. I can come back to center. I can ground myself. I don't have to think that thought. I don't have to stay wedded to it. Literally, that was a 2-second, I observed myself all stressed out. I took a breath. I let that stuff go. You know, I might have to do that 25 times, but every time I'm a little bit clearer. That's literally meditation at a stoplight.
Yeah,
like, it doesn't have to be with your legs crossed,
right?
You know,
right.
in yoga pants by any means.
That's so good. I love it. Well, I have loved this conversation. And is there anything that we haven't touched on yet that you want to leave us with?
Thanks. Thank you. I have too. I have really thoroughly enjoyed myself, Amanda. Thank you. You know, I think just rounding out our conversation, a couple things I just want to offer as maybe either insights or affirmations, confirmations with things that someone might be feeling or going through. It is one that what we've talked about today, these mindsets, they simply really, are that. They are mindsets. They are practiced ways of translating the stimuli of the world, and that translation can change. Habits can change. Absolutely. And number two, you don't have to change on your own. There's no reason to. There are people such as myself and a whole world of helpers. If you have an intention of getting support, there will be someone to support you. I do not doubt that. And I think number 3, and finally, it is just the reminder that growth is inherently uncomfortable. Oh gosh, we forget that. And I really want to say that because all that I just shared about that discovery of potentially what could be ADHD, maybe what couldn't, but that was really uncomfortable. That was like an uncomfortable season. I was feeling overwhelmed. I felt like, pieces were missing. I was still functioning, but like internally, not quite. Well, that meant growth. That was meaning I have outgrown the systems that I used to use, and it's time for new systems. It's time for new support. It's time for a new elevated sense of self. Step into this next realm of being. And that's not comfortable. And so if you're in an uncomfortable space, if you're feeling discomfort, I want to remind you and assure you and maybe support your nervous system just a bit to say, like, this is growth. And if you're feeling that way, it's probably a good sense that there's some fixed mindset stuff going on versus growth mindset. And that's okay. Like, shift just a bit. Say, it's all right. I'm growing. This discomfort means murky waters that are clear, clear ahead. It's clear ahead. Just keep telling yourself that. And it's okay. You are well. You're well.
So good. Ryane, where can people find you if they want more and just connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are feeling like I need to speak to this woman, please reach out to me. I have a free discovery call that I would love to offer for you. It's 45 minutes with me personally, where we will talk about where you are, where you want to be, what's jamming up, and how support can help you. That's at my website, www.inspirebrandconsulting.com/gift. And I also have a free tool. Think of like 17 magazine questionnaire quiz that will help you determine whether it's not diagnostic or anything like that, but just what mindset, what confidence gap killer might be standing in your way. That's also at my website, www.inspirebrandconsulting.com. And of course on IG to follow the conversation.
Nice. I love it. And I'll be sure to link to all of that in the show notes and episode description. Ryane, it was so fun having you on. Such an important conversation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Amanda. This was a lot of fun.
If you love this episode, I would love to hear from you. And you can do that by sharing this on Instagram and tagging me at imperfectly_ambitious so I can see what you're liking. Or you could leave a rating or a review on your podcast app. And that not only means so much to me, but it helps to get this in front of more people. Or you could share this episode with a friend or a colleague who might need to hear it. Either way, I appreciate you and I love being here with you each week. We'll talk to you soon.